Muss die Klimabewegung radikaler werden? Und müssen Klimaaktivistinnen in Zukunft anfangen, zentrale Knotenpunkte fossiler Infrastruktur zu zerstören und anzugreifen? Das ist die Interviewfrage, die ich gleich meinem Partner Daniel Goldhaber stelle. Er ist Regisseur vom Film How to Blow Up a Pipeline. Der ist gestern auf dem Filmfest in Hamburg prämiert. Ich stehe hier vor dem Passagekino und wir gehen jetzt mal rein. Hi. With me today is Mr. Daniel Goldhaber. Nice to have you here.
Thank you for having me.
He's the director of the movie How to Blow Up a Pipeline. That movie premiered in Europe yesterday. So today we have the 2nd of October. Yesterday it premiered on the Filmfest Hamburg. And today we're at the beautiful Passage Kino. And we're going to talk a bit about your movie.
Yeah.
Nice. Really good. So just for the people that watch that do not really have a clue what the movie is about, would you mind giving a brief summary?
Yeah, the movie is based on a manifesto by a radical academic named Andreas Malm. The book is called How to Blow Up a Pipeline, but it is kind of political theory. And the idea of the book is, you know, kind of tracing every social, major social justice movement of the last, several hundred years, and kind of looking at the fact that most of them are predicated at the very least on the destruction of property, and then kind of making the argument that the existential threat that climate change poses to life on Earth is so significant that there is debatably a moral obligation to destroy fossil fuel infrastructure to ensure humanity's ability to continue to exist on planet Earth. And so that's the book.
Yeah.
But I read this book last year, and it was a very powerful experience. And with two writer collaborators, Ariella Barrera and Jordan Scholl, we wrote a movie that is kind of a heist film version of this book that's kind of looking at, 8 people in their early 20s who blow up a pipeline. So it's kind of Ocean's 11 for ecoterrorism. And the idea of the film is to have a very kind of fun, entertaining, provocative look at young people defending their future, and to make a movie that's very entertaining, but that is also kind of very thought-provoking about these questions of what do we do to combat climate change and to force a move to another way of constructing our society.
Yeah, we are going to get into that thought-provoking later. But first, so would you consider yourself an activist?
No.
No, why not?
I'm a filmmaker. I think that there is often a mistake that filmmakers make to think that making a movie is the same thing as doing the thing. But just if, people are inspired to do work or to do activism because of this film, great. That doesn't make me an activist.
Right.
Yeah.
So you briefly summarized the book already, which the movie is based on.
Yeah.
But why that book? What was your specific motivation engaging in that project?
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple of things. My parents work in climate science. They're software engineers for the climate model. So I grew up with climate change kind of hanging over my head from a very young age. And my first jobs in film were jobs in movies and documentary about climate change. I've also always wanted to make a film about youthful revolution. I had always thought that would be a great subject of a movie. And so these are things that I've always been very passionate about, but I'd never had a way in. And the inspiration of why the book happened the second I read the book and that my collaborators read the book, I think it was an immediate aha. And I think part of the reason is that the book articulates a target. And I think that a lot of the dialogue over the last, 20 years, 30 years about climate change, about fossil fuel use, focuses on the individual company, the individual person, be it the individual consumer or the individuals that run fossil fuel companies. But the problem is that by focusing on individual stories, you kind of lose focus on the problem, which is the infrastructure. And I think that this is one of the ideas in Andreas's book that is so interesting, is he says, forget about the people, focus on the machines, focus on the infrastructure. This is a target that is justifiable. And I think that this is a very interesting idea.
So the idea is for the movie emerged about like 1.5 years ago, 19 months was it?
Yeah. So last February 1st.
Was there like
2021.
some urgent, did you have to have like speed to bring it out?
Yeah. So, I mean, I definitely, one of the other motivations for the film was coming after, living in lockdown for about a year and living in the States through some very, very tumultuous political times and feeling extremely powerless and wanting to make something that felt relevant to my life. So I think that this is how movies often used to be made, very quickly and in a way that was very responsive to society and culture and current events. And this made film very relevant. And I think the problem now when movies now are made so slowly is it means that film is much less relevant to our current moment, especially when you have so much media like TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, that can be so responsive to what's happening. So as a result, I think film feels less and less important and relevant to our culture. And this is something that I wish that more studios and financiers were aware of, because they're kind of negotiating themselves out of cultural importance.
Yeah, it's a bombshell of relevance that you put out there.
Yeah.
Also, you already mentioned like filming during or producing during the pandemic.
Yeah.
Also, there are like a lot of scenes in the movie where there's really harsh land. A lot of it is based in Texas, some like North Dakota.
Yeah.
Like not the best livable locations also to shoot in. How troublesome was the production? I
mean, it was definitely the hardest thing I've done from a production standpoint. It was just, it was not just kind of an independent film. It was also just, the conditions were very difficult. From New Mexico, which is where we shot for Texas in December, it's not just that you're an hour and a half away from the city, in the dirt, in the cold, in December, with very little shooting time and very little light, and you're shooting on film, and there's 8 key cast, and no time for rehearsal, and stunts, and things go wrong, and cars break down, and so it was really, we were kind of flying by the seat of our pants, and we had very little prep time, because the things that were important is that the movie feel real, and also the movie is about not quite a spontaneous action, but a deeply impulsive action, an action of these people that feel like they just have to do something. There's an energy to that, and it was kind of a similar energy that we had in making the movie.
Yeah, let's talk about like stunts. How did you manage to find an abandoned pipeline to like blow up?
We didn't.
Yeah, I expect
we built it.
But you built it.
Yes.
But what did you build it out of? Did you
wood,
put together like a normal pipeline? No, you didn't.
No. So in the film, the main pipeline, the above ground pipeline, is wood and cardboard. And then, but all of the other infrastructure in the movie is real.
Yeah.
So the valve station that they go to, that happened to be on the ranch that we were shooting on. And
you also see like some of that gas industry where there's like constant flames rising up, which looks like so like the one person that stands in front of it looks so powerless against like that big part of industry. Was that one of the things that you wanted to capture? So the powerlessness of the individual against the industry?
I mean, it's critical. That's what because the way the movie is structured, you're going between the kind of action and then these flashbacks that are the reason why people are doing this. And I think a reason that people attack infrastructure or attack this industry is because they're powerless to stop it from destroying their lives, their community, their water, their air, their ability to live. And I think that, as I was saying, one of the big ideas from the book that I think was so inspiring to consider in this film is this notion of the enemy, not as a person, but as infrastructure, as machinery. And so in articulating that visually, you need these kind of moments of people kind of dwarfed by this horrible, apocalyptic landscape.
Yeah, definitely. So you just mentioned that we have like all these characters and they all have each and everyone has a little backstory shown in the movie. Do you think that you kind of captured most of the things that, and most of the ways that fossil industries kind of destroying lives?
I wouldn't say that the movie is authoritative or complete by any means. I think we, in developing the movie, were kind of looking for the stories and the effects of fossil fuel industry that were closest to home for us, that were familiar to us. I think one of our ideas very early on was that the way that we might approach the characters of the film are as if we and our friends went and blew up a pipeline. And so a lot of the characters and a lot of the stories came from firsthand experience. And these are people who are in part credited on the movie as writing consultants and script consultants. So, everybody from, Olive Jane Lorraine, who plays Katie, Dwayne's wife in the film, who grew up in a refinery town, who experienced that acid rain story that Sasha Lane character's Theo has. That was a story from Olive's life, and Olive is both a magnificent writer and an extraordinary actor. And so, Olive is somebody who really informed that story, and Olive is just a close collaborator of Ariella's. So there was a lot of kind of finding stories and inspiration from what was immediate to us. But I think the thing is that fossil fuel industry and the effects of it are so much bigger than even just the stories in the film, from natural disasters, which is something that the movie briefly touches on, but it was something that we really struggled to, we couldn't really totally fit that in with everything else. But everything from natural disasters to famine to war to the kind of destabilization that we're seeing to COVID. Mm-hmm. These are all the effects of climate change and environmental destruction. And I think that so many of our contemporary political, economic problems more and more will be linked to this question. And so I think that the movie is just scratching the surface of kind of what these issues are.
Yeah, I have an audio of Andreas yesterday when I asked him a little question on the red carpet.
Yeah.
I would like to play it to you and have your opinion on it, if that's cool.
Yeah.
But would you say that movie would probably get people to be interested more in the ideas that you put down in your book?
Well, I'd say that this is the first film about climate activists in the present historical moment. So it's a film that will appeal and speak to the whole generation from Greta Thunberg and onwards, who, well, not only her obviously, but the past few years, this whole generation of climate activists haven't had a film before that's about them. I don't think that necessarily this film will, induce any particular kind of action, but I think it will be received by people in the climate movement as the first film that they can relate to that is about what climate struggle is in the present moment.
Yeah, so you just said that you don't want to be polemic with movies, but what Andreas said was that movie is an inspiration for a whole generation of climate activists. Isn't that a bit polemic?
No. I think the difference, what he's talking about again is this question of emotional identification, not a question of the movie having a singular message. There's there's a difference between saying the movie is saying this is the moral of the story, mm-hmm. and saying this is a movie about 8 characters that you identify with. This is one of the things that art and culture can do, is when people see their struggles reflected in a film, this is sometimes important.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's nearly it. For the last question is, so in the movie, there is a lot of time spent on building a bomb, quite a big bomb. You said you did 3 months of research or 2 months of research. Mm-hmm. Would you, theoretically speaking, be able to build a bomb now?
Without blowing myself up, probably not.
Definitely. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Daniel Goldhaber, director of the movie How to Blow Up a Pipeline. Thank you for the interview. Thanks for being here.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah.